Hey everyone, it's Patrick at the Pitch Stack and welcome to another Kano Ultimate Guide video, in which today we're going to be talking about pitch stacking. We'll go over what pitch stacking is, how you stack, and the different ways to go about it, when you should stack, tips and tricks to help you get better, and some stacking gameplay at the end. Let's get started. What is pitch stacking? Whether you're new to Flesh and Blood or if you're a seasoned veteran, pitch stacking is something that you should learn with any deck that you use. Because Flesh and Blood pitch stacking basically has it to where you can manipulate what you see in your deck if and when the game goes long enough, or what we're going to call the second cycle. When you pitch a card, you're creating a path of what you want to see, how you see it, and what order those cards will be in when you come back around. Applying this strategy to Kano can cause you to get massive one-turn kills once you reach that second cycle with the help of tomes to draw cards for resources and Ether Wildfire combined with Blazing Aether for damage. Now that you have the basics on pitch stacking and how it's applied to Kano, let's talk about how you should stack. How do you stack? When it comes to pitch stacking with Kano, you should run the minimum 60 cards that you're allowed to create the fastest possible start to reaching the second cycle, as we're bringing 30 life and no blocking armor into these games. Those 60 cards can be defensive in order to help you to survive longer, such as Sink Below, Fate Foreseen, and Oasis Respite. If you side these cards in, they're going to be twice as effective as you might think, as it protects most damage from one card and allows you to reach second cycle faster with ops and filtering. But before you start out and you need to learn about pitch stacking, I would recommend you just run the cards that don't break the top of your deck, as it might be a hard problem to deal with when you're trying to get down the basics of stacking. Now let's talk about the sets of stacked cards that we're going to be going in your pitch stack. Whenever you are stacking with Kano, you're trying to apply sets of cards all together in one place that works best in tandem. Whether you're going for one large combo, enough for one kill, or two medium-sized combos that add up to lethal damage. Now when it comes to the best cards to have in your stack, some good sets of cards are going to be Tome, 2 blues, Blazing Wildfire Gaze of Ages, 2 blues as a buffer, Blazing, and then so on. This is a good sample of a solid second cycle pitch stack when it comes to the large combo. 2 medium combo stacks could be something like 4 blues, Wildfire on top, Spindle underneath, and then there's going to be random cards and to reorder for another medium to large combo for lethal damage on the very following turn. However, your deck will never hand you your most wanted stat cards that are ready to go. Even more so, we don't want those exact cards in that exact order anyway, as we wouldn't want to block with them to begin with, as we would just use them to trade life for a god stack. Sure, we had the god stack, but we took a lot of damage to get there. Surviving 2 second cycle is a major point of stacking. But remember, we can't control what we draw in our first cycle unless you're going to be throwing a red Ether Flare plus a red Spindle for a massive opt. But even if we did get that combo off, it would generally just be used to send everything to the bottom anyways to help you turbo to our second cycle. I do want you to keep this in mind. Overstacking is a thing and can be hurtful at times, i.e. you're going to be pitching another Tome of Aetherwind into your stack when you already have one there, and you're not using it to accelerate to your second cycle faster. Just because it's nice to have in your stack to give you a net gain of 3 resources, it can mean the difference between a loss or a win if you don't use your tome instead. Now let's talk about fixing scuffed stacks. How do you fix a scuffed stack where your more important cards aren't at the beginning? Well, to help out some of the bad draws, we use cards like Sundering Foresight, Gaze of Ages, and Tomes as buffer cards. These cards allow you to opt away the bad cards in order to get to the major damage cards. If it's a major scuff stack and it needs to be reset, if you're able to get a Lesson in Lava to deal damage in the very early turns, then you might get away with a tutor to shuffle your deck. However, if you do have to start your pitch stack over with a shuffle effect, be cautious on what you're pitching on the Lesson in Lava reset turn, as that's going to be the start of your new stack. When you do plan on stacking, going second is always better to giving our deck a better hope on 4 blues so that we can use this for 1 or 2 turns into reaching our stack faster. Though this is going to be a double-edged sword, as we are going to be using 2 to 3 cards off the top with the blues from Kano's Banish, but we have to get past those 4 starting blues that we pitched to get to the cards that we want. It's a bit of a give and take. Now let's talk about the different methods that you can use to remember your stack. The most common way of remembering your stack of our desired sets of cards, like mentioned above, is counting up to 60. But if it's easier for you, you can count down from 60. There's also another way of counting the cards that you had just pitched, in which you would have to physically count the cards in your deck when you're getting closer and closer to stack. It could look like 10 cards have been pitched, and you have to physically count 45 cards that are left, which means you have 35 cards in the way before your stack. But however you decide on the method of tracking your stack, keep this in mind. Whenever you draw a card, bottom a card due to an opt effect, banish a card for whatever reason, you're going to be counting that many cards towards your total count. You can even skip counting if you wanted to and use a marker card such as Chain Lightning or Sonic Boom with 3 blues after it, as you might have gotten that stuck with that hand at the very beginning. Then from there, you can kind of go on autopilot and just remember the order of your stack, freeing up more mental fatigue that was used for counting. As you know, once you see that marker card, there's X amount of cards before your major stack pieces. Now let's talk about the PAO method. A more advanced method of remembering your stack is something called Person Action Object. That method is a common memorization tool used for long strips of numbers or playing cards. If you combine the PAO method with the Mind Palace method, it is said that you can remember more information than just remembering the names of the cards. We're not going to be going too crazy in depth with this method description, but basically every card in your Kano deck is associated with a person, an action, and an object. For instance, Wildfire can be assigned as Jean Grey conjuring a fireball. Jean Grey is the person, conjuring is the action, fireball is the object. Now let's do that with 2 more cards. Gaze the Ages is Goku holding a spirit bomb, and Blazing Ether is Mario petting dragons. It really comes down to what you want to assign your cards. With these 3 cards, the order matters in what picture is created in your Mind Palace. You can have the first 3 cards of your stack be Gaze, Wildfire, Blazing, which then that will create Goku conjuring dragons. PAO plus the Mind Palace are created to remember in sets of 3. Your Mind Palace could be your home, and each picture goes into each room of your house. I currently don't use this method, but check out the video PAO stack method done by my teammate Blazing for Lethal, as he goes in more depth with the actual gameplay. You can definitely learn a lot more about PAO on that video. Now let's talk about when you should stack. Typically, pitch stacking is used when you're going against a deck that allows you enough time to reach your desired second cycle, but this always isn't used against slow decks, but it typically is. And those examples range from Pistol Control Dash, Assassins with Oasis Respite, Decimator Great Axe Warriors with High Arcane Barrier and potential Oasis Respite, and so forth. There are a lot of decks that can be stacked, such as Bravo, since he is slow enough with very little go wide turns, as well as Vincent, as she has a lot of potential passive protection against us with her High Arcane Barrier and Darkness/Ebonfold equipment. But it's not just the slower decks that can be stacked, as some aggressive decks, like Max Nitro, can be stacked to have to deal with some of those gotcha cards to stop our normal combo turns, such as Evo Facebreaker, as that cycle of cards acts as a ward to shut down the damage from Wildfire. It's always worth testing over the course of several matches if a deck can be stacked, but the general rule of thumb is running stacking into slower decks. Now let's talk about tips and tricks to help you get better at pitch stacking. First tip, when going second into pitch stacking and you're given 4 blues, one way to help mark your stack in case you forgot the count is to group duplicates of the same blue together. That could look like double Prog, Ether Quickening, and Ether Dart as your starting blues. But if I don't come across duplicate blues, another thing I like to do is to order the cost of the blues if I get lucky with something like Voltic Bolt, Ether Quickening, Ether Dart, and Prog, as I can visualize the cost as a countdown to my next cards. 2, 1, 0, 0. Second tip. A little tip to help you remember the important cards and ignore the cards that don't matter is having a number of blues in between your combo pieces. This can look something like Tome 2, meaning there's 2 blues, Blazing 3, Wildfire, Lesson, Gaze 2, etc. This will neaten up your mental track and keep everything concise. Tip number 3. Establish your game plan like any other matchup. With stacking, you're wanting to survive long enough to reach your second cycle. Your highest priority for cards in your deck are playing potions and Tome of Finedom from Arsenal. As mentioned before, defensive cards can be used to allow yourself to survive against larger attacks, as well as accelerate your stack with opt-in filtering, but you do not have to take damage to do damage. It's not about tempo, it's about surviving. Tip number 4. Practice your count more than anything. Counting can be applied to any method to remembering your stack, so getting that down over other strategies can help you more than you might think. If you forget your count early on, you can count your graveyard, your banish, your stack itself if it's low enough, cards in your hand, arsenal, and in play, which would be items. Tip number 5. Potion of Deja Vu is your friend when you're starting to learn how to stack, since you may overshoot your count. Once you get the hang of making sure that your count isn't forgotten, then you won't have to rely on this card as much. But make no mistake here, even I lose my count and I go past my start of what I wanted. This card helps out so much in stacking matchups, so please do not sleep on this card. Tip number 6. One major request I've seen from people learning Kano is how to get around Oasis Respite when it targets your Ether Wildfire. I have mentioned this before in my other Kano guide, but I will touch on it again as it means so much more now than it does in our normal aggro matchups. Plus, it's easier to pull off as well. If you suspect an Oasis Respite to be played during your game as you stack, make sure to have 2 Ether Wildfires present during your combo turn. This doesn't mean that you have to have 2 wildfires in stack, but it's nice to have them beside each other, as you might have double Oasis to be a thing. When you go for your OTK and you think Oasis will be played, play your first wildfire without Crucible of Aetherweave buff applied to it. Mention to your opponent that the Metacarpus trigger is on the stack, as they may play Oasis before you pay into nodes for the buff. Then, with the Oasis on the stack, meaning it has not yet resolved, play another wildfire fully buffed with Crucible and nodes. There are extreme cases in where you get triple Oasis played on your combo turn, but it doesn't matter as long as your last wildfire gets 1 point of damage within a triple wildfire combo turn. Look at this example, as I suspected 3 Oasis to be played, and I played 3 wildfires in response to the next Oasis. Then this was backed up by 3 Blazing Ethers. Tip number 7. I had a question asked to me that I think should be addressed as a tip, and I will be used to help those who don't know what to do if the wildfires aren't showing in the early part of your deck. If your first wildfire doesn't show up until you're about 3/4 into your deck, then you should pocket the first one that you see into your arsenal. From there, you can wait until your second wildfire appears, and you can hold that in your hand until you reach your pitch stack. Some decks might do double Oasis, so it's up to you if you can see a pattern of them holding 2 cards in their hand and 1 card in arsenal. Figure out if it's worth holding on to 2 wildfires in hand and then 1 in arsenal if you have a Potion of Deja Vu to help you place those wildfires on top for combo turn. Hopefully you have enough resources with Tome and Energy Potions to allow a kill to happen with the late deck wildfires. Okay everybody, that's going to be it for the information part of the section of this guide. Now let's jump into some gameplay. Alright, we got some rated CCQ here. I'm gonna bring in 5D reacts and go for like a pitch stack style type of thing. Typically this isn't great for Yuzuri. But we're gonna try to get past a lot of different things here. We got AB2 plus your Nerve Scalpel plus Arcane Lantern. Oh, well, it is in addition to because of that, but yeah, this is why you don't bring nourishing anymore for this. As a bodge, it just works for two different things. Basically, just a draw free card there. So what we'll do is we're going to pitch stack a little bit here. So we'll advance faster with this one. So we're at 5 now. Now we're going to be at 6. 7 and 8. So we're at 8. We're at 8. I don't want this to be my action point because I want to be able to filter more or put more into it. And we've got another depot coming in. So this isn't our only depot. Usually just one's enough. So we'll opt and we can just get our first potion here. This is really good. All right, so we're at 8 now. Now we're going to send this to the bottom. We're at 9. Keep this on top. See, and we leave him 1 floating. So he's short 1 resource. So we're at 9 now. Send this out here. We'll do that. We're at 9. And the pitch stack is going to be red flare with some blues. We're going to do red flare, flare, flare. Kind of give me like my own little marker card type of thing. So we're at 9 with like triple flare. Now we're up to 13 here with lesson at the end. We really need lesson to hit. Something juicy. We're going to take... good thing that there is probably a shred. Which will fucking suck. I really want to double block this and then just use it and then put this down there. Because we can go here and here. I don't really want to put anything underneath my lesson, so we're still at 13. If anything, we can wait 1 more bout. We got a yellow shred. Kind of what we're thinking here. Go ahead and sync. If they double shred this, this is fine. Because, like, there's really nothing. I'm gonna keep this blue. No double shred, still at 13. Hopefully we can find something to move along with. Now we're at 15, which is, yeah, the wildfires, what we wanted. We won't have an arsenal. Kind of strips their power from the lesson. Leave no witness and CNCs. So what we'll do is Kano at 15. Actually has to give me a card too. So this is 15. No, 16 because it was 13 coming up. 14, 15. This is 16. You gonna give me an arsenal? Hell no, he says. He doesn't want to give me an arsenal. All right, so now we're good. We are 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So we're good here. We can go 20. $21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. 125. This really sucks because we need to tome in the middle or right afterwards. So 25. Sure. likes this arsenal enough not to be able to clear it for a codex, so it's going to stay in there for a while. Could be an oasis. 25. Let me just do this. $26 because of gaze. 26. 27 and 28. 28. 29. 2 cost. 30. 31, 32, and 33. $33. It sucks. That really does suck. Still at 33. 34. 35 with Kano. Oasis coming in. A battle hardened winner checklist, which means he's probably got one in arsenal. Still 34. This is never going away. 34, 35, 36, and 37. 35, 36, 37, 38. This gives me an option to put this in the arsenal or not. 38. Take it. 39. 39. That's the first one down. I don't have another one. 39. Mm. 40, 41, 42, and 43. 43. Probably CNC. 43. That's the agency that putting shit in there when it's not ready. But our thing was stuffed. 43, right? $44. Oh, I think it's 44. 45. 46, 47, 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. It's 48. No shred. $48, $49 with gaze. Toss that out. $49 still. $50. Which is tone, 50's tone, 51, 52. $53. $54, $55, $56, $57 on top. $57. That's our pitch stack. So we would need to just shoot this like that, maybe? We would get 2 blues less than wildfire. Which fucking blows, cause unless we rags, 2 blues lessen. Play this. Vanish. Lesson goes with rags. We were off on our count there for a little bit. Ah, we have a second one. We were off on our count by 2 cards, not 3 cards. So with that, fire, teapot on fire. This was the bottom, and then we pop these. Pop all of these. Go ahead and pop all of them. So we have an idea before we fucking understand. All right, 6 resources. 9 resources total, right? 2, 2, and 1, because there's 2 wildfires. 2, 2, 1. Now we have to go into the fact that we have, this is 3, this is 6. We have a blazing that's on top. So we can't do anything for buffs because we have to go with, that's my understanding of 2, 2, 1. I thought I had an extra pump because of this. So I can't even pump at all. So this comes in for 3, this comes in for 2, this comes in for 1. So that's 6 resources plus the banish on here. So this has to come in. Actually, there we go. Yep. That's fine. Now he does this. I do this. I do this. He goes, takes 4. Now we let this resolve. This buff covers it for less than blazing, basically.